Larisa has repeatedly discussed with her husband the question of a second child a year after the birth of their firstborn. When the heart is ripening, the desire to give the baby a brother or sister with a small age difference grows. "Well, let's wait a little," replied her husband with a slight fatigue in his voice. 5 years is the ideal interval. And where are we in a hurry? We have a mortgage, and I'm already exhausted by the mere thought that the responsibility lies on me. At that moment, Larisa thought about it and agreed with his arguments. 5 years of waiting seemed acceptable to her. Although when they dreamed of the future before, they were both convinced that it was best to have children one after the other to complete this stage at once. Children would grow up together, Larisa thought. They would have a real friendship. And her husband fully shared this opinion. Mortgage? Well, our parents gave us a lot of support by giving us more than half of the amount for the down payment. I don't think it was an impossible burden for him. Larisa's husband, with their first son, showed himself as a caring father. He walked with the stroller, helped his wife around the house, and rushed from work to bathe the baby, especially at the beginning. However, more than 4 years had passed since the birth of her son, and Larisa dreamed of having a daughter. When she discussed it with her husband, he was strongly against it. "Listen, to pay off the mortgage, considering that you are working now, it will take us about 1.5 years, he said. Let's get back to this issue in 1.5 years. I want to go on vacation and just take a break from the hustle and bustle. You're suggesting that we go back to the world of strollers, diapers, and bottles. And if we have a girl, we'll have to take out a mortgage again. No, come on." Her husband was putting it on her shoulders, to put it mildly. He argued that women now have many options, spirals, pills, suppositories, and suggested that she decide what would be more convenient. Larisa reflected on her situation. She had an IUD and was experiencing side effects due to her body's peculiarities. She was taking pills but was suffering from hormonal changes, and this created additional difficulties. The woman admits that she would like to have a second child and solve the problem radically, but her husband did not take the initiative. He did not refuse to give up the idea of a second baby, but he didn't rush into a decision either, and he didn't want to take on the responsibility of surgery to prevent unwanted pregnancies. "I have to have surgery? Are you out of your mind?" outraged her husband. Once, Larisa decided that for the time being, she wouldn't take any action other than using suppositories. Yes, this method isn't the most reliable, but she was ready for a pregnancy and wanted it. She honestly warned her husband about her decision, but he just shrugged his shoulders. And that's when their son was 8 years old. Larisa found out that she was expecting a child again. Of course, there were no guarantees, but it did not embarrass her. The woman decided that after the birth of the baby, she would do a tubal ligation, especially considering that she had problems with her eyes, and the doctor strongly recommended it. "I didn't tell my husband until I went for an ultrasound," Larisa shares. "At week 7, I broke the news to him. His reaction was horrible. He almost flew into a rage, accusing me of cheating by the Holy Spirit while he was on a business trip." "I don't want it," finally confessed the husband. His voice sounded with a note of despair. "You decided to put me in front of the fact. We were living normally. Let's try to solve this situation before it's too late." Larisa refused to discuss the problem. There was an oppressive silence in the air. The husband kept blaming her for what had happened. Even the mother-in-law interfered with the reproach. "Don't destroy the family. After all, pregnancy was always the woman's responsibility. If you didn't want children, you should have taken care of it. Why not blame it all on her husband?" "The problem is that I didn't mind," Larisa answered to her husband's mother. "Your son was against it, but he didn't take any steps. And now we have a child." Looking at her, Larisa realized that their family might be in danger. She was ready for it, thinking and discussing with her mother all possible options. When Larisa's grandmother left the world, her mother was ready to support her daughter. They decided that while Larisa was on maternity leave, they would live together in her mother's apartment, and they would rent out Grandma's apartment later. Larisa and her children were planning to move to a separate dwelling. Larisa was sure that with her mother's support, it was possible to organize everything so as not to experience unnecessary difficulties. She was not going to remarry, but could always find a man to meet when the pregnancy term passed. 3 months later, Larisa made a decision. She was leaving her husband, filed for divorce, divided the apartment, and demanded alimony. "I just don't want to waste my nerves," she said. "Why should I see my husband's disgruntled face every day? Why should my daughter grow up in an atmosphere where she feels unwanted? I gave my husband a chance to keep the family together, but his behavior only strengthened my decision to divorce." How did the husband react to the news of the divorce? He accused Larisa of using him only as a free donor. According to him, for the whole 9 years of their life together, she only used him in this respect. Besides, he put the blame for the fact that their son was left without a father on Larisa, claiming that it was because of her desire to have another child. "When he grows up, I will definitely tell him about it," threatened the husband. "Let's see if he will thank you." "Everything depends on how I will bring up my son," replied the woman. "He is now looking forward to the arrival of a little sister." How did Larisa take the divorce? In general, it was normal, although with some psychological difficulties. But her mother-in-law had a violent reaction to all these events. "Why do you demand such a huge alimony from my son?" outraged the mother-in-law. "He never wanted this child. Because of your pregnancy, your family broke up, and now you want him to support your children and you? The apartment should be left to your grandson. So what? So sign over your shares to him." Larisa is not going to transfer her share to her son. There will be a daughter, and to give priority to the eldest child is unfair. Before the expected date of delivery, there are only 2 weeks left, and Larisa and her son are living with her mother, since they have already been divorced by the court. What do you think? Is Larisa really a strange woman or not? She wants to give birth, and her husband is against it, but does nothing. So who is to blame? Let him pay, and she will have both a son and a daughter, which she has always dreamed of.